fire.
To those that aren't really in the know, how would you describe financial literacy?
Well, the dictionary terms will tell you it's about saving, knowing how to manage money, but specifically it talks about long-term planning and managing of day-to-day finances and just saving the right way. So, yeah, that's financial literacy in a nutshell.
Well, all right, that's pretty simple compared to what I thought. But what made you want to educate others about financial literacy? And are there specific topics that you like to focus on?
Yeah, well, that was really a simple explanation of financial literacy. So, yeah, it is a lot more complex than the definition that I gave, but that's what I like about me teaching personal finance is the fact that I break it down to make it simplified so it doesn't feel overwhelming to you. But there's a lot of different components that come with financial literacy. Specifically, I talk about like day-to-day practices because that's what impacts us the most. Like how you spend your money day to day. How are you saving day to day? And then I focus a lot on credit. Credit allows you to be able to leverage your cash flow. And what I mean by that is, you know, you don't want to use up all your cash until the next time you get paid. You know, you'll basically be flat broke, or be asking your friend, "Can I borrow $20 until I get paid?" But if you have good credit, where you can have a credit card, you can leverage your cash flow by using that credit card, keeping that $20 in your account for whatever that you may need it for, but you can utilize a credit card to kind of get you to that next paycheck. And it also just helps you build credit over a period of time when you're wanting to buy a home, wanting to get a house, wanting to get a car, maybe start a business. So I focus a lot on credit. The second thing I focus on third thing I focus on is long-term savings. You know, a lot of times we're thinking about saving for something like, oh, I need to save for a down payment on a house, or I need to save to be able to buy a car, or I'm saving for that, vacation, or like there's always a goal that you're saving for. And then those funds get used towards that goal. And then you kind of start a savings all over again for something else. And typically those things are experiences or materialistic things. It's never, oh, well, I'm saving so that when I get older, I don't have to work as much. Or when I get older, I don't have to rely on Social Security as much. Or when I get older, maybe I can go travel the world like I wanted to, or start that business that I wanted. It's never really a long-term goal. Specifically, I see this type of thinking in BIPOC communities. And so that is who I would like to teach financial literacy to the most, is people who look like me. We don't have anybody knocking on our doors to come and help us figure out how we can create generational wealth one day. And so that's the fourth thing that I focus on is opportunities for creating generational wealth. There are steps before you get there, but that is a part of what I teach. I also focus on teaching Black and Brown communities about the historical facts of how Black and Indigenous people and people of color have contributed to this country. And we're the ones that have no wealth, and we're literally the ones why everyone else has wealth. So I have a little section of what I teach is called Black Economics, and the hope is to try to get people who look like us to understand why it's so important to take financial literacy seriously. Because we literally are the ones that created it for everyone else, And those are probably like the main 6 areas that I focus on.
Well, those are really good things.
Those are amazing. You have had so many opportunities as far as educating adults. How do you think we can implement financial literacy into children's curriculum? Because I have a 6-year-old son, and I'm starting to see that every single day there are finances involved with that. What do you think we could do as far as, people that have, little boys and girls? How can we implement that?
Yeah, I teach ranging from, 8 years old up until my oldest client is 67, ranging about to hit retirement. So I start or try to start as young as possible, even if they have a savings account that they're doing chores around the house. And you take them to the bank and have them deposit that into their account. You start as young as possible, because the younger they are, the more normal it becomes to them to understand how to manage finances. A lot of times as adults, we put limits on children and think like, oh, they're young, let's not have them grow up too fast, when really our responsibility is to develop them to become individuals one day. When does that process actually start? When you think they're competent enough, or when they are, walking and talking and exploring things with their mouths because they want to learn? They're putting things in their mouths, they're touching things. Children show us that they're ready to learn from the time they come out the womb. Their necks be going all up trying to see what's going on, being nosy, because they want to know what's going on. So sometimes when I sit with clients that have children, I tell them to invite them into the sessions. They need to hear these terms. They need to be a part of the process. Have them have that little book and notebook. You're working on your budget. He has a budget too, or she has a budget too, because that's how you build relationships with your kids too, spending time with them, like teaching them about certain things. What's different from teaching them music to teaching them finance? What's different from teaching them how to, wash dishes and teaching them how to manage a budget? What's the difference with teaching them sports and teaching them finance? And so that's my perspective when it comes to, parents. Just get your children involved as early as possible. Those opportunities are there, but again, with Black and Brown communities, we don't spend as much time with our children as our white counterparts, to be honest. We have to work 2 to 3 jobs just to make sure that they have, food and supplies for school. And that dynamic of having a stay-at-home mom or stay-at-home dad isn't always the reality for us.
That is definitely, and you've answered my question. My next question was, how crucial it is for people of color to know how to invest, when to save, and how that definitely impacts us in the long run. So thank you for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I have a follow-up question to that. So in regards to non-Black and Brown communities, because, we tend not to teach our children financial literacy. Also, you mentioned that it's due to the fact that we don't get to spend as much time with our children. Do you feel that it's possible that we try to keep our children due to all of the things that we do have to face in the world as Black people? So we try to hide that aspect of it. Do you feel like that plays a part? And how do we counter? How would you suggest we counterbalance that need to maintain the purity of youth, but at the same time we're still getting this education across?
Yeah, that's a really great question. Let me first start off giving a disclaimer. I'm not trying to tell nobody what to do with their kids, okay? I'm not. I'm just being honest. I don't want nobody to feel like I'm attacking them, that I'm coming for their neck, or I'm trying to say that they're a bad mother or father or auntie, uncle, whoever, whatever role you play in children's lives that you're close to. Let me just start off by saying that. Yes, us not spending enough time with our children do impact that, because there are things that I didn't know to be financial literacy until I was exposed to it. So you don't know what you don't know. If you didn't know or ever hear the color blue or see it and someone said, oh, this is blue, then how would you have known? How do you research what generational wealth is if you never heard it? How do you research investments in mutual funds and the rule of 72? And like, there's just certain terminology that just didn't get passed down to us as Black and brown families. That's just the reality of the situation. We just know, oh, save for a rainy day. Make sure you have a pot somewhere just in case something happened. You know, you have a little cash that you can dip into. Like, those are the things that you hear when it comes to Black and brown communities. Saving for a rainy day. Or we know about passing generational wealth through like real estate, like homes. Ownership is the one thing that we do know about. But we don't know about life insurance and trust fund babies. Well, I don't know no Black or brown trust fund babies. Like, I just don't know any. I know my children will be probably the first, you know, but those are just things that we just don't know about. But how can we counteract that when we're faced with what we're dealing with today? And it's 2021. Like, we should already know that things are not going to change for our community if we're hiding the realities from our children. You know, we have to really be preparing them for real life. And it's not taking away their innocence. It's also not robbing them of the opportunity to become whole people. Because truth is that is our responsibility as adults when it comes to the youth. It's not it's too early, but when is it early enough? Because specifically with girls, and this doesn't relate to finance, but young girls, if you are not teaching them that their body parts are private and people are not supposed to touch, and, you know, people just don't be doing all this, you know, how will she know to come and tell you if somebody did something inappropriately or made her feel uncomfortable? When is it too early to teach her these things?
I agree.
Same things with our sons. If we are not teaching them what is inappropriate, when is going to be the right time? Because people take advantage of innocence. People take advantage of ignorance and you not knowing certain things. So when is it ever a right time?
That was a really good answer.
That was very insightful, and definitely agree with that.
And let me just throw it out there. I got 7 nieces and a nephew, okay, that Auntie Michelda is very involved in their lives. And it's very important to me to, you know, I'm not practicing on them, but, you know, I want to be a mother one day. And so I don't know what that's going to look like for me, but me and my nephew or my nieces, we have conversations very young on how to process their emotions. And we talk about money. You know, the books that I give them are personal development books. Rich Dad, Poor Dad. My nephew is about sick of me at this point. Like, he's about sick of me at this point. But Auntie gets them journals so that they can learn how to process their emotions and write down how they feel. And, you know, it's not, I don't think that it's ever too young. There's never too young to prepare them for the realities of life.
I definitely agree with that, especially emotional intelligence. You know, like finances aside, but being able to articulate ourselves and to tap into how we feel and how we conduct ourselves, that's super important to starting young. That's what I try to do with my son, at least.
Yeah, it's important because those same development skills will translate to how they are at work, will translate to how they are when it comes to managing their money. A lot of people don't associate their personal well-being associated with finance, because how you deal with your finances is how you deal with yourself. So if you're inconsistent with paying your bills on time or saving or misusing your credit, that's because you're inconsistent with yourself. You have no self-control within yourself. You have no clarity on what your goals are, what you're trying to accomplish. They are very much in sync.
Mm-hmm. Before you go on to your next question, Michelle, I do want to say this. Do you feel like, you know, people of color, do you feel like we've been steered the wrong way as far as what healthy finances look like?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, absolutely. 10,000 times yes. you know, oh man, let me tell you, America is probably one of the best brands and marketing campaigns you could ever have witnessed in history. And let me explain to you why. Whiteness is something that they created, okay? It is not a real thing. They just was like, you know what? This is what we want the world to look like. We think this is the best. These are the people who should have access, and it should be white men. And white men who have wealth should be the ones to be able to make the decisions. And that's what it was. So when they started realizing, like, oh, snap, Black people, they actually have intelligence. They can contribute to the world. We need to find out how we can ensure that they're not having access to the same things that we are. And so you have redlining, where they were boxing us out of wealthy communities. We couldn't even walk into a bank, Lord Jesus. We couldn't have access to even hear the words, literally. They kept books away from us. And then they invited pop culture, that sells us this image of what Black people are, these stereotypes. And so now our worth and value is so attached to materialistic things, or going to the club and having those experiences when you turn 18 or 21. Like, there's certain things like spring break, even though you're a broke college student, get all the money you can to go have this experience in Miami, Florida, or Cancun, because these experiences are what make you a person. They make you feel like you are living your best life. Everything is so young and free, and just don't worry about saving. Don't worry about really preparing for when you get out of college and making sure you have a job lined up. Or, don't spend all your time having the college experience instead of networking, instead of going to a company in the field that you want and working for free, because right now they could probably get you some experience that you need once you get out. We don't think about stuff like that because we have been sold this imagery of what wealth looks like. That's why Black people love Louis Vuitton, love Coach, and will spend thousands of dollars on that stuff, but will not support their local boutiques, will not support their friends, because it doesn't add value to them. They don't feel rich. They don't feel like, oh, I got something these white folk got. I won't pay $200 for their friend to do their hair, though. They expect to get it for free because their friends don't respect their time and their talent, but they'll go and spend $300 on a pair of Jordans and not bat an eye.
Exactly. That I feel like we've been programmed to try to impress people that really don't give a shit about us. You know what I mean? It's just the image of like, oh, I have this, but you can't even pay for it. You know what I mean? I know so many people that have these, like, and not to say you can't have nice things, but if you can't manage the finance, if you can't maintain it, it's pretty much pointless, right? So I know these people that have these expensive cars, but they can barely pay them every month. You know what I mean? So we've been so programmed to try to impress this and really be validated of our materialistic goods and what that really means for us.
Yeah. And it's
really,
it's that thing of not knowing self. We're trying to fill this void and this gap and feel more than we are, because in society, we're torn down in so many different places. In school, we don't learn about us. We learn about white people. At work, we're not able to be ourselves. We need to acclimate to whiteness, this professionalism, that you need to make sure your hair is not too curly and not, it can't be too African looking. You can wear patterns, and you have to show up in all these places and be someone that you're just not, to make sure that you fit this mold that white people created. So yeah, our self-worth is diminished every single day by day, hour by hour, minute by minute, second by second. So yeah, we think these things add value to us as people, not knowing our history and where we come from, and that's why it's important where I teach that segment of Black economics to really show Black people like, yo, this is our history here, just in this country. Don't have me go back to Africa now. No, you know
Right.
what I'm saying? There is just so much richness in being a Black person or a person of color or even indigenous people. We can just teach a whole bunch just on indigenous people, their contributions to this country. But it's so interesting that, and this is no shade towards our Indian brothers and sisters, but they have reservations and they have laws that protect them, and they have what is it called? Oh God, I can't think about it now. Y'all getting me in my feelings because I'm
Hey, this is what it's here for. Where we need the voice. Your voice is important, and here we are.
They get restitution, their children get certain access to certain things, and no one ever says that they're asking for too much, or no one ever says that, oh, they always getting a handout. No one says that. It's only relative to Black people where you hear stuff like that. And why is that the case? Why is that the case? Because we literally built everything that you have. There's certain intelligence that this country would not have if it wasn't for Black people. We need a lot more than Black History Month, I'll tell you that.
Exactly. And I want you to explain this, because I feel like a lot of people don't really understand what the redlining was for people that wanted to get houses in certain neighborhoods. Do you want to explain that?
Yes. All right. So redlining was a practice that they implemented, I want to say in the early 1950s. And essentially what it did was it created the ghettos, and it created what we know as projects now, because there was literally red lines. Like if you're, you guys probably should have Ashley Cleveland, who's one of the only Black city planners here in Salt Lake City. If she could explain it in a more technical manner, I'm just giving you guys an overview of what it was. If you've ever seen a map, we can take the United States as a map. There were actually red lines created on the map to say, okay, this is where white people could be, and this is where Black people could be. And this is where white people can buy a home, and this is the only place Black people, if they wanted to buy a home, if they could, if our people, because we know all the people who worked in the banks and was given loans were white, and they were white men. So if we happen to let one of them get a house, these are the only areas in which they could live. And so it was like the segregation just continuing in different forms. And that's why I say whiteness is still prominent to this day, where it just shapeshifts. It just turns into something new. We see that right now with what's going on in Georgia. The hypocrisy, like, you know what I'm saying? Like the audacity of these people to try to stomp on what Stacey Abrams has done and say, you know what? Okay, we got something for her. She thinks she's about to come up here and be all Black and proud and doing all this stuff and on covers of magazines and Black women changing things. No. We actually have the power to pass these bills that say, oh, now it's illegal for you to give people water and food while standing in lines for 3 to 4 hours just to cast their vote as U.S. citizens, as contributors to this society. Because they have all the power. They can do stuff like that. She can get drugged out of the Capitol because guess what? She knocked on the person's door. Wow. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I saw that today in the news and was just baffled. I'm like, wow, this is crazy.
It's disgusting. It is disgusting. But that's what we have to deal with.
Yeah. So all that being said, and given our state in the world right now during quarantine, do you think we can still apply all these values now? Because, people are like relying on like government funds and stuff like that as we speak and are still losing their jobs. So are they still able to apply like all those points that you mentioned previously?
Applying them? No. That's just not realistic. But keeping them in mind and understanding that this is still a goal that needs to be strived for, yes. being able to pivot and adjust when life events happen is crucial to managing your finances. We don't always know what's going to happen. And this pandemic was one of probably the best times for people to really reevaluate how they spent their money, what they did to pour into themselves. We've had a lot of time. You could have been writing that business plan to start that business. When things start moving again, we had a lot of time to really sit back and research. This year is the 100th year anniversary of Black Wall Street, where it took place in Tulsa, Oklahoma. It was one of the worst massacres in the United States history, but no one knew about it.
No one talks about it.
If I didn't stumble across it probably 5 years ago and just was digging into some stuff, I was like, what the hell?
Yeah, exactly. Which is crazy because you don't hear about this in school. It's like we have to go and investigate all of this ourselves.
Yes. And then again, it's that point that I made. How do you research things you don't know the terms to?
Right.
You can't look up something that you don't know or didn't hear. Oh yeah, breast cancer. Yeah, what is that? I didn't know. I didn't even know what that was. So if you're not hearing it, if you're not exposed to it, then yeah. But I think, the practices is something we can apply at this moment. But this is a great example of like understanding how we're not getting paid enough, and when we are getting paid enough, that we may be allocating those funds to the wrong places. There's a lot of people who didn't have an emergency fund. They didn't even have a $500 saved to get them through anything with COVID. People realized that their credit was bad and couldn't apply for a loan or couldn't get a credit card to kind of, again, leverage cash flow until they started getting a job. People were losing their homes, and it's just, it got worse for Black and Brown community.
Mm. So is this what you talk about on your podcast, the Bloom Line, right?
Man, people would love for me to do that, but no, my podcast, The Bloom Line, is like really just me talking about my personal journey of healing. And introducing the people that I've met along the way. I do talk about finance, slightly, just a little bit. I haven't actually dove into it because, again, it's just like a healing pod for me right now. I had experience of miscarriage, and that podcast is what kind of drugged me out of bed. I didn't even know it was something that I was going to do, but yeah, no, I don't talk about it much. A lot of people want me to, which I will get to. But right now, it's just really a place of healing for me and bringing people along. I talk a lot about Jesus. I do talk about how my financial journey has strengthened me and has healed me because I've been debt-free for 6 years now. And I have been able to save and invest and really claim my own independence through that. And there's a lot of strength and healing that comes through that when I can say, I can leave Wells Fargo at any day, any time that I want, and I don't need to worry about whether I'll be able to take care of my bills. And so I do talk about it a little bit, but not in this grave detail that I do when I do my workshops and stuff like that.
Well, thank you so much. You have definitely highlighted a lot of things I hope a lot of people pay attention to. And your voice is super important. And I did notice something. Is it Versatile Image? Is that another?
My baby.
Tell us about that before we go.
Oh, man. I started Versatile Image in October of 2013 when I was living in Florida. So I'm originally from South Florida. I just moved here to Salt Lake almost 2 years ago in July. And Versatile Image really started after we had to sell our family business, which I ran for about 4 years. It was a grocery store. And there was so much that I felt like I didn't know. But even still, it was like most small businesses didn't suffer the recession that took place in 2008. And we kind of fell like right into that period. We were in business for maybe 10 months before the recession hit. And so us being able to sustain the business for as long as we did was really, it was actually pretty great. But I felt even still, I was like, dang, I feel like if I knew more, if there was something that maybe I missed something or like whatever, I felt like a failure, to be honest with you. Because man, doing that for 4 years, walking into your own business and opening the doors and like, I don't know, even though it was 15-hour days, 7 days a week, it just brought me so much joy, you know? And that's what I'm trying to get back to in my life right now. But personal image really started because I felt like a failure, and I felt like there were things about business and finance that I just didn't know. And so I was just researching, just doing a bunch of things. And then people realized I know how to do things, and they're like, "Oh, can I hire you to do X, Y, and Z?" And I was like, "Yeah, I mean, I can help. I can help teach you QuickBooks. Like I used to, yeah, I learned how to do it. Like, you know, yeah, I can teach you about social media and how to integrate it into your business. And yeah, I can teach you about that. Let's plan an event for your grand opening." Like whatever it was that they felt like they needed to, you know, promote their business or create the infrastructure for their business, how to market their business. I was like, yeah. So I turned it into a business, and I was just, you know, word of mouth, contracted to do certain things, join on certain projects, and it was great. And I've done that for a really long time. I've done consulting for businesses, for some large corporations, some production companies. I've worked with a lot of people. It's been great. And then I hit this plateau of really trying to find out what I wanted personal image to be. And so I was trying to figure that out. And God was just saying, hey, you should turn it into a nonprofit. And I was like, how the heck am I going to make money? Because through consulting and doing these jobs, I was able to eliminate my debt, you know, that way, because I had all this extra money that was coming in. And I was like, how am I going to make money if I turn it into a nonprofit? And like, he's like, you know, just do it. And I was not listening. It was like 2 years. And then I was like, you know what? I see how this will better serve the community, because I've traveled a lot of places, and there's not one place I can say where there are people who are invested in Black ideas and Black businesses. So I was like, where can you go? Like, really, where can you go? You know, who here is going to be emotionally invested, like actually want to see you successful and care about whether you fail or have the things that you need? And so I turned it into a nonprofit, moved out here to Utah. And man, let me tell you, God been showing up and showing the hell out. He's really been opening a lot of doors, and personal image is turning into something that is going to grow beyond me, because it's really going to serve Black and Brown communities in a way that I've never experienced or seen. And so, yeah, I'm really excited about Versatile Image and what we're doing. And we have a board of 7 people. We also have a volunteer staff of about 9. And, you know, we've been working through COVID and really here to just serve the Black community. And it's been good so far. So thank you, ladies, for having me. I really appreciate it.